Okay, how many of y'all have at least one person in your life that you find difficult to communicate with, that you have trouble communicating with? Okay, all right. How many of you have some things that you'd like to achieve, but you feel like there's some blockers, potentially people maybe standing in the way? Okay, all right, we're going to be talking about this idea of the power of influence. I don't want to oversell it on the front end, but I really believe that the model that I'm going to teach in this short period has the potential to be really transformational in all of your relationships. I don't care if we're talking about the people you work with, the people when you go on site to run a conference and you're dealing with everybody from AV people to the people at the front desk, that this is a model that you're going to be able to take with you and have an immediate impact on the way that you actually communicate and deal with other people, and it's going to ramp up your effectiveness exponentially. So, let me give you one of my favorite quotes. The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee, and I will pay more for that ability than any other under the sun. What do you think this person's saying? Are they putting a high or a low premium on the ability to deal with people? High, big, right? They're saying this is it. This is a big, big, important deal to me. Okay, now, if you happen to know who actually said this quote, let's not blurt it out and ruin it for everybody else. But for the rest of you, you can guess. Who do you think said this? Who said this? Give me some guesses.
Sam Walton.
Sam Walton, great. This is a very creative guessing group. We're going to have a big time this afternoon. Who'd you say? Ronald Reagan?
Roosevelt.
Good, Roosevelt. Okay, great. Sorry, me. Yes. This was a quote said by me. It was actually this man here, John D. Rockefeller, who you're familiar with, lived from 1839 to 1937. He founded the Standard Oil Company. He was the first person worth $1 billion, right? $1 billion. Now think about that. That's a lot of money today. How much money was that in 1937 when he died? So in fact, he's often regarded as the richest person in history. There may have been some people who have come and eclipsed him since, but big, big, big deal. And by the way, from what I understand, John D. Rockefeller was not particularly good at this thing he's willing to pay a premium for. So look how wildly successful he was, but he even had the awareness to recognize that there's no telling where he could have gone if he would have been better at the kinds of things that we're going to talk about today. So I want to show you a quick video clip. This is from one of my favorite movies, Lost in Translation. Having grown up overseas, this movie is near and dear to my heart. But the scenario is that Bill Murray has come over to Japan. He's a actor in the movie, as he is in real life in the U.S. And he's come over to Japan, and they're paying him $1 million to come over and make this commercial. And so you can watch as the scene unfolds on set. Bill Murray trying to make this commercial. So let me ask you this. Raise your hand if you've ever traveled to another country where you did not speak the language. Raise your hand. Okay, give me some countries. Where have you been? Panama. Kenya. Japan. Okay. France. Boy, well traveled. We have an international crowd here. That's fantastic. Okay, yeah. What is that like? What's it like to be in a country where you don't speak the language? It's like that, right? You feel disconnected. It's hard to communicate. Is it easy or hard to get what you want? Difficult to get what you want. You're not quite sure what's going on half the time. It's just difficult to connect and communicate, isn't it? All right. Have you traveled to a country where they don't speak English, but you did speak the language? Raise your hand if you traveled to a country where, okay, now how is that different when you're able to speak the language of the country, the new country that you're in? Spanish in Mexico is not the same necessarily what you grew up with and so forth. But let's just assume that you're fluent in it and you're able to speak it. Doesn't it make things go a lot easier? Absolutely. I actually grew up in a different country. I grew up in Bangkok, Thailand, of all places. And Thai is a very difficult language. Now, the fact that I was 3.5 when we went made it a lot easier for me to learn the language. But my parents went, obviously, when they were older. They were actually missionaries, and so they went through a couple years of language school. And here's the interesting thing about Thai. Thai is a tonal language, which means the way you say the word makes a big difference. So if I say ma, 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 those are 4 different words. It doesn't work that way in English, does it? If I say car, 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 you still know go get the car. But in Thai, those can be very different words. In fact, that is horse, dog, come, and doctor. Okay, so you could call your doctor a dog very easily. My dad preached his very first sermon on Noah building a fence. Okay, let that one sink in for just a little bit. The rains are coming. We have to get this fence built. If we can't get this fence built, it's going to be terrible. Let's get all the animals inside the fence. I'm sure the people were very confused. But I grew up, actually my vocabulary, the depth of my vocabulary is not very big, but my tone is evidently what the Thais would say is chatlui, which means fluent. And I was actually in a taxi a few years ago when I was there, and I was driving around, I'm talking to the taxi driver, and he tells me that, oh, your Thai is chatlui. And I said, well, thank you very much. And he said, so let me ask you a question. Do you work for the CIA, or do you have a Thai wife? And I said, neither. Why do you ask me that? He said, no American speaks Thai that well unless they work for the CIA or they have a Thai wife. And so I argued with him, and I said, look, I grew up here as a little kid. I came, and then we're going round and round and round, and finally I just gave up. I said, you know what? I work for the CIA, and I have a Thai wife. And he was like, I knew it. I knew it. But language is an amazing thing if you think about it. It gives you the ability to either connect with another person, get those things done that you're trying to get done, or it's an absolute blocker. What I'm going to demonstrate for you and show you here today is that, believe it or not, this room represents 4 different language groups. And we're going to see that broken out in a little bit. When you go to work, you're dealing with potentially 4 different language groups. That the 4 basic social styles, that this model has been around for 30 plus years. It's been, folks from 18 different language groups have been profiled on this particular model, and it's demonstrated that the population breaks out pretty evenly in those languages. So if we were to think about it from a language standpoint, you know, in the room we have people who speak exclusively German, we have people who speak exclusively Spanish, we have people who speak English, and we have people who speak Mandarin, or whatever the case may be. You're dealing on a regular basis with people who are speaking a different language from you. So, you know the video that we saw with Bill Murray, and he's having that difficult time communicating? Raise your hand if you've ever had that kind of experience with someone and you were both speaking English. Yeah, okay, right? So it's a whole different deal. You can be using the same language and yet not connecting at all. And my belief is that that's really going to break down to a difference in the kind of styles that we're talking about. Okay, so here's what I want you to do at your table. Take those case studies that you have in your notes. You should have some. On the back of page 2, back of page 1, I guess, would be page 2. And start wherever you want. Pick 1, 2, 3, you know, and just jump in and look at that scenario and describe a little bit, if you were the person intervening in that situation, what would you do? What do you see going on? How would you react to it? Okay, so as soon as you get that done, I'll tell you what, let's use the microphones, Mike, since we have the handy-dandy technology available to us. So as soon as you get those done, talk a little bit at your table, just real quickly about one and what you see going on there, one that jumped out at you. And then we'll do it big group in just a minute. Okay, good. Hopefully in the remote audience you are talking amongst yourselves about these case studies. So let's get you involved in the conversation. Take your connector, and you know how to use the microphone button. Raise your hand if you have a question. I'll point to you. You push the mic, and we'll be off and going. So make a comment on just one of these studies. Some brave soul. Which one of these would you comment on? Okay? Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We did the second to last about Mike, his executive or his boss, about providing the status updates and how she seems impatient when he's giving them to her.
Yes.
I would say that her communication style is, I want things short and to the point, give me the meat of the information, and Mike wants to give her all of the information, and she just doesn't have time for that. She prefers succinct communications.
Okay, can you give that to me faster and in more bullet points? No, that's excellent. So, yeah, so we have a complete disconnect going on here. Okay, good. Somebody else. Another case study. Yes.
So we talked about number 2 in the annual conference, and we kind of came to agreement that the fact is the horsing around, they could really be putting their nose to the grindstone, and it's just the perception of the manager. As long as the manager has really communicated to them what they need to do and what they need to get done and with the time frame, there needs to be some flexibility. So, and maybe if it is horsing around, they're burnt out. So take a break, bring in pizza, depending on your work environment, let them wear jeans, try to make it fun, but realize that there's certain deliverables and let them get done, and that they need to get done in a certain manner and time.
Okay, did anybody agree with the manager when you read that and said, they just need to get back to work? I agree. Stop this story. Okay, we got a few. Okay, one more real quick. Good. Excellent. One more real quick. Yes.
So we took the first one, and we both kind of agreed that you actually have to go back in this one to how Sandra may have approached Fred in the first place.
Okay.
Because I think it's important to find out what someone has on their plate before you put a task on, on their plate and say, I need this right now.
Okay.
So addressing that, and then also giving the big picture of why this needs to be done so quickly, because some people need to see that before they can translate it into a real desire for themselves.
Okay, good.
And that's enough.
No, good.
Trying to get me off.
No, good
and then
stuff.
When I was 12.
And I think my mother and Donna.
No, seriously, are you done? Would you like to go some more, Liz? Are you sure you're finished? Okay, excellent. These little case studies are basically just to demonstrate to you some of the kind of conflict that can come up when you run events like these, or when you're in the workplace, or when you're dealing with people just on a regular basis. Every one of these has a styles component to it, and when you see the matrix and you kind of get some of what y'all are starting to nibble around the edges at, it makes them so much easier to understand how you would act, what you would do. So basically, in any kind of an interaction, there are two kinds of tension. The first kind of tension we're going to call task tension. Task tension has to do with how much energy you put into getting the job done. So just a minute ago when I said, hey, get with your tables and start working at this, you guys jumped right in. You started doing the assignment, and you were pouring your energy into that. There was a lot of focus, a lot of creativity, a lot of work. There's another kind of tension, though, in any kind of interaction. It's called interpersonal tension, people tension. What's going on between two people or a person and a group of other people on any given occasion. And that's a little bit different, because task tension obviously we'd see as a good thing. If you got a lot of task tension, that's good because you're getting a lot of work accomplished. People tension has to do with when you get in an interaction with another person and maybe you don't know them very well. And so you're asking yourself some questions like, can I trust them? Are we going to be able to connect? Is this going to be somebody I'm going to enjoy and like? And so maybe a lot of those ideas are bouncing around in your head. What if it's somebody that you don't like at all, and you're now sitting down and you're interacting with them? What's going through your mind? I hate this person. I can't believe I'm having to make small talk with them, whatever the case may be. So here's the $64,000 question. When relationship tension is high, is task tension high or low? High. Okay. When relationship tension is high, is task tension high or low? It's actually low. Okay. Because how much energy gets put into doing the task when the things that are bouncing around in your head are, I hate this person and I don't really want to be here, and you're not using all your creative juices and energies, you're not thinking, you're not collaborating, you're not really working together at all. So it's actually in inverse proportion. If relationship tension's high, guess what happens to task tension? Choo, out the floor. Why is that important? Because it's important for especially some of you to know in this room, this is not a class about being nice. This is not a topic about how to be nice or how to get along well with others or sing kumbaya. Let's just all join up and have soft, warm fuzzies towards each other. That's not what this is about at all. It's at the end of the day about being effective. Because when you learn this model and you apply it effectively, basically what you're able to do is reduce some of the relationship tension that you see going on in these case studies. Just completely wipe it out so it's a non-factor, and guess what? You're able to get down to business and get work going in a much more effective way. You're able to get what you want quicker, people feel good about it, and it moves you along at a much more rapid pace. So, Here's what I want you to do at your table. Talk about someone you've had difficulty working with in the past. By the way, you have the opportunity, I think, to send some comments through via the remote as well. And then talk about someone you've enjoyed working with. What are some characteristics of people you like? You know, who was somebody that you enjoyed working with and someone who was difficult to work with? Talk about that at your table real quickly. Oh, yes. Okay. All right. Good. Boy, I love how engaged and involved this group is, and especially after lunch. And by the way, the amazing Joey, was that not fantastic? Did y'all go see their golf? Oh, boy, what a demonstration. What a great message he had on the back end. Okay, so we're going to take kind of what you were talking about, and we're going to compile it in this way. Take your clickers out and text characteristics of people you find difficult to work with. How would you can give a one-word description. You can do a sentence. Just type them in, text them in. In a minute, we'll scroll those up here on the board. Make sure to do enter. Can someone hum the Jeopardy music? All right, here we go. And the survey says, inflexible, inconsistent. Can we scroll that faster, Mike? Non-communicative, untrusting, snippy. Bad listeners, negative. Inflexible, inconsistent, non-communicative, untrusting. Okay, great. So, nice little list. Micromanagers, there's a new one. Unhappy, negative always, disconnected, lazy, opinionated, Who have y'all been working with? What in the world is going on here? Okay, good. Drama, rigid, unengaged, demanding, people who lack trust, etc., etc. Arrogance, long-winded, micromanagers. Okay, good. Thank you, Mike. All right, let's go to the next one. I want you to do the reverse of that and give some characteristics of people with whom you enjoy working. We'll see if Snippy shows up on here twice. Okay. Survey says, open-minded, trusting, happy, grateful, flexible, positive, good listeners, happy. We like working with happy people. Some of you don't like working with happy people. Sharp, engaged, bubbly, collaborative, talented, positive reinforcement, honest. Okay, good humor, dream team. Okay? Thoughtful, etc., etc. Engaged. Okay. All right. Thanks, Mike. That's good. All right. So what's interesting about that is I would just be curious. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands on this, but if there were maybe some of the characteristics on the don't like to work with these people that you're looking at and going, I don't mind that so much. I don't mind someone that's kind of a micromanager. That's good. In fact, I want a lot of input. Or if some of those on that second list that you were watching, you know, happy, bubbly, you're thinking, douche, right? No, I don't want to work with those people. Okay, so we'll get to that in a little bit. All right, so let's get to the model. How about? With social styles, what we're going to talk about, you can know how someone will most likely react to pressure when they're under pressure. You can know what form of communication is effective for different people. And if you think about it this way, when you are in another country and they speak a different language, what language, if you are able to, do you want to speak? Their language, okay? So when I'm in Thailand, I'm much more effective when I speak Thai. I get better prices, I get around easier, I get those things taken care of. And that's basically what we're going to talk about. How do I toggle in and out of, how do I switch in and out of whatever the language is so that the other person is receiving me and hearing me? Okay? What triggers a person into frustration or anger? Now, I have a very specific request, and this is very important. You are going to learn what is going to trigger a person into frustration or anger. My request is that please use this for good and not for evil, okay? Because let's be honest, you could use it either way. Some of you are paying much better attention in class now because you're going, ha ha. How to recover from a difficult conversation, one of those conversations you've been in that you go, we're not connecting, this is not working out. How to build better trust on the front end. When you first meet somebody or when you first get engaged with somebody, how can you elevate that trust at a much, much more quicked? Is that a word? I just coined a phrase. Actually, my daughter and I came up with the word the other day, and it was a lightmare, okay? And basically a lightmare is a nightmare. It's kind of a scary dream you have, but that, you know, you get some sort of aha moment from it, and it... Anyway, feel free to use that. That's a little extra. That just is extra for the class. Okay, so I'm going to build a model real quickly, and it starts with this, the assertiveness scale. And this is not the traditional definition of assertiveness, but basically, how do you go about trying to get things accomplished? And you are going to be somewhere along this continuum, okay? It's not a 1 or a 0, you're one or the other. But either you more predominantly try to get things done through being ask assertive. So, hey, would you mind if, or please, thank you, a lot of that sort of stuff. Or you're going to be more on the tell side, which is, hey, pick me up some copy paper when you're in the copy room, okay? Are you more directive, or are you a little more passive or questioning when it comes to getting stuff done? On the ask side, those folks in the room are going to be a little less direct. They're going to tend towards the more quiet side. They're going to be a little slower in the way in their speech patterns. Fewer interruptions. They're going to let you finish a sentence. They're going to have more questions, obviously. They're going to be less confrontational in general. They're going to be more risk averse, not excited about, you know, a lot of risk. And they're going to take time for decisions. They want to take their time. On the tell side, those folks are going to be direct, louder, faster, frequent interruptions, fewer questions, more confrontational. They're going to embrace risk, and they're going to be much quicker with decisions. All right? So look at that list and think about where you might put yourself. And we're going to do a little vote on that. So do you consider yourself to be ask or tell assertive? Ask is 1, tell would be 2. The top-rated rock and roll song of all time. Whoa! Okay, interesting. So we have about a split room. You know what? I'm really not surprised by that. Because statistically, that's pretty much how it breaks down if you take the general population. All right, so now let's ask a different question. Tell assertive people. For those of you who considered yourself to be tell assertive, how do you view ask assertive people? Give some one-word descriptions of how tell assertive people view ask assertive people. Text those in. Too nice, wishy-washy, frustrating, soft, annoying, weak. Wow! You guys are brutal, wimpy, pushy, rude, really, diplomatic, shy, passive, etc., etc. Okay, pushovers, sensitive, easily manipulatable, weak, etc. Okay, good. Okay, thank you, Mike. Wow. I normally do this live and have the ask people stand up or the tell people stand up, and then we, do it live so you can at least who's saying those nasty things about you. You guys just took the gloves off with this. All right, well, guess what? Now it's the other folks' turn. So ask assertive people, how do you view tell assertive people? If you're on the ask side, how do you tend to view tell assertive people? Okay, inconsiderate, demanding, rude, pushy, shallow thinkers, uncivilized and rude, bitchy, bossy, demanding, not smart, pushy, ruthless, bulldozers, lazy, pushy, bossy. Okay, that's good, Mike. I think we've had quite enough of that. Wow! All right, so can you see what's happening here, though? We're talking about two different communication styles, and we're talking about people that are either ask or tell, and already you can see where some of the conflict starts to emerge from that. Why? Because I don't speak your language. I don't understand why you're doing it that way, and all it does is frustrate me. I either think you are wimpy and a pushover, and you're really not going to be able to get things done, or I think you're an arrogant, bossy, bitchy, person who is just a bulldozer. And that's what where we tend to start getting some of these breakdowns. Okay, you've got the first part of the styles grid. This is very easy. The next one is this, your priority focus. How do you organize your work? And we're primarily talking about within a work setting, but this obviously applies in other settings as well, although you may be different at work than you are kind of in the social hour afterwards or at home. So we'll talk about it from a work context. You're either task first or you're people first. So here's the way I would describe that. You come in, it's a Monday morning, you come in from the weekend, you go to your desk, you get down, you start working on your computer, you're returning emails, you got a bunch of stuff going, you're building, something, and all of a sudden 2 hours later you look up and you go, oh, wow, there are other people in the room. I should go say hi to them, okay? That would be a task first, more oriented style person. A people person is going to walk in on a Monday morning, and what are they going to do? They're going to make the rounds. Yeah, get some coffee, hey, how is everything going? What's going on? Did you see the game this weekend? And then what are they going to do? Okay, now I better go get to work. So, by the way, it has nothing to do with one getting more work done than the other. You can make an argument. It's just kind of different approaches. But which are you? Do you tend to be a task-first person, or do you tend to be a people-first person? So hold on, I'll give you some more description. Task-first. Obviously, they're task first. Facts and data. Fewer expressions. Why? Because what do I use hand motions and facial expression to do? Communicate with people. When you're dealing with a machine or when you're dealing with task, do you need to demonstrate with your face what you mean by that and so forth? No, not at all. You don't have to have all the hand movements. So there's much less of that. As a result, they come off as more formal. They're not as forward with their emotions, and they have a more even tone of voice. What about people? Well, they're people first. They deal a lot more in feelings and opinions than facts and data. They're more expression. They have much more gestures going on, okay? I actually had a person that we profiled at one point, and the way he came back profiled said that he was down in this camp, and I'll give you that category a little bit in just a minute. But he had been profiled that, and he came in and he's doing this in the room. He's going, I can't believe I profiled like that. There's no way. And I was like, dude, look at you. So much less formal, more readily share emotions and feelings, and has a much more varied tone of voice. It's going to be up and down the scale. So, do you consider yourself to be people or task? People first or task first, based on those descriptions. Wow! This is a very interesting group. It's split, again, right about down the middle. So within 2 percentage points. That's really interesting. So we got a bunch of task folks, we got a bunch of people folks. So back to our question, task first people. How do you view people first people? If you're a task first person, how do you tend to view people first people? Text. You should only be texting if you're a task first person. So you can look at the people around you who are texting and know who to target. Okay, gossipers, social butterflies, slow, time wasters, ineffective, lazy, fun, there's a nice one, dreamers, and I have a feeling they don't mean that in a good sense. Slackers, chatty, noisy, procrastinators, leave me alone. Not really that serious. Interrupter, aloof, chatty Cathy, time wasting, chatty. Okay, easy to talk to. So, all right, thank you, Mike. There's a bunch in there. Some, a few that are kind of nice, and the rest of them, wow. All right, so now people first people. How do you tend to view task first people? Less emotion, less hand movements. How do you view those folks? Cold, boring, closed off, impersonal, focused, emotionally dead. Wow. Wow. Rude, boring, uptight, driven, formal, diligent, focused, and unemotional, ineffective. Interesting. Okay. All right, good. Thank you, Mike. We got a bunch more. No fun. Grab that one last. All right. So, again, what do we have going on here? We approach things differently, and guess what? We tend to have a little bit of a negative view towards people who aren't like who? Us. I see people through the lens of, this is the way you're supposed to act if you're not asking that way. Well, guess what? If you want to do that and you want to take that approach, basically, you're going to find yourself being ineffective a big chunk of the time. Why? Because the population basically breaks down about 25%, 25%, 25%, 25% into these 4 different quadrants. So you're either ask and task, or you're task and tell, or you're tell and people, or you're ask and people. And no surprise or shocker, guess what? We have a term for each of those. Folks who are task and ask, we're going to call analyticals. They are all about the facts and data. They are accurate. This is their number one concern. They are complete. They are going to be very thorough in the way that they approach things. In fact, these are the measure twice, cut once folks. These are the folks who want all of the information before they make a decision, and they like to what? Get it right. Now, please understand, not necessarily be right, they just want to get it right. They put a lot of time and energy into something, and they want to make sure that they have dotted every I and crossed every T. Okay, folks who are task and tell, we're going to call drivers. What do they look like? They're all about results. Give me results. They're about efficiency. Let me get it done in the fastest, quickest, most efficient manner possible. They're much more comfortable with the 80% solution. So if analytical needs 150% of the information in order to make a decision, a driver goes, I've got 80% of it, that's good, I'm good to go. And if they had a motto, it would be get her done, right? Just get it done, and let's move on to something else. Folks who are ask and people, we're going to call amiables. What are these folks like? They're very concerned about relationships. It's very high on their priority list. They see relationships as a way to get things done. They like to build consensus. They like to engage with other people. They're very much about team. It's the no person left behind kind of approach, right? These are the folks that will make sure that you don't get left in the dust. And if they were to have a motto, it would be something like do it together. Hey, let's just, let's all get along. Let's do it together. We're going to be more effective that way. People who are tell and people, we're going to call those folks expressives. What do they look like? They're very creative. They bring a lot of that creative spark and energy to a company or to a situation. They have a lot of fun. They have a lot of energy and innovation. And if they had a motto, it would be, let's enjoy it, okay? It shouldn't have to be drudgery no matter what we're doing. Let's just at least enjoy it. Let's have a good time. There's no reason we shouldn't have a good time, okay? So, analytical, driver, amiable, expressive, based on, now don't guess at these. Take the data that you gave earlier, the information you gave earlier. If you said you were task and tell, then put yourself in the driver category. Pick one of those based on those 2 questions that we asked earlier, all right? So which style do you, hold on, we're not going to do that one. Which style, sorry, you know what, I don't have that slide in there, do I? Yeah, but I wanted people to be able to say which one they are, which one they think they are. That's what you find easiest to work with. Okay, ignore that question. Do not read that question. I want you to pick based on 1, 2, 3, or 4 which of those you think you are. We'll do the easiest to work with in a minute. Just pick which one of those you think you are. Are you analytical, you driver, number 3, amiable, or 4, expressive? What camp would you put yourself in? Whoa, okay, so in the room we have 20% analytical, 33% driver, 20% amiable, and 27% expressive. So again, a pretty even kind of split within the group that we're working with. Okay, so I'm actually going to go backwards, Mike, to that previous slide. So let's talk about this a little bit. Let me just unpack this a bit for you. And it's important, by the way, is it more important, do you think, to know what style you are or to be able to interpret and know the styles of the people around you? Okay, when I am fluent in English, and I go to Mexico, it's not important how fluent in English I am. That doesn't do me any good. It's important how fluent I'm able to be in Spanish if I want to communicate with that group. So the point is, when you are talking to another person, it's not your style, it's their style that's important. So let's understand these just a little bit. What do analyticals and drivers have in common? What do they both share? They're both focused on what? Task. They're both task focused. Get the job done. Analytical is going to take more of their time. They're a little more concerned about the thoroughness. The drivers are concerned about getting it done, but they're both task. Amiables and expressives, what do they both have in common? People. They're both concerned on the people side. That's going to be their first priority structure. What do drivers and expressives have in common? They're tellers. They get things done by telling. Now, what's the difference between a driver's tell and an expressive's tell? Good manners. One is expressives are nicer. Okay, see all the yeah. Stereotypes. Yeah. Drivers are telling because they're trying to get what done? The task. Expressives are telling because what? They're trying to connect. It's about the people focus. They're trying to influence. So they're trying to just, I've got and boy, I hope she's not watching right now, sister. If she is, no, actually that's great. Because I'm going to give her a little commercial. Some of y'all know I have a New York Times best-selling romance writer sister, Sabrina Jeffries, who is a phenomenal writer. She's had countless books on the New York Times list, and she writes steamy romance novels, which makes my missionary parents very proud. No, and they're historical romance, so they're, to wed a lord and all of those kinds of books. So if you're a romance writer, she's great. She's top of the pack. But Debbie that's her pen name is Sabrina Jeffries. Her real name is Debbie. Debbie is very much an expressive. So she's kind of a tell, expressive. And Debbie, just, if you sit down and we start talking, she's got a lot of life to share. So there's going to be a lot of that kind of tell. You would never find that same kind of tell with the driver. It's just they're going to come at it from a different angle. So what about analyticals and amiables? What do they share in common? They're both what? Askers. But what's different about their asking? Why is an analytical asking? To collect data, facts and data. Why is an amiable asking? To build a relationship. So if we're going to lunch for the first time, and I'm sorry, what's your name? Karen, that's right. Okay, so if Karen and I are going to lunch for the first time, she's new to the company, and we sit down, and I'm an analytical, I might be asking a lot of questions, but they're going to be things like, oh, so Karen, I'm really curious about your previous job. What was that like? And what was this? And what was that? But I'm in my head trying to gather information. I'm trying to, maybe solve some kind of an issue. She's done a job that I've always been curious about. And so I'm just that encyclopedia of taking information. If I go to lunch with Karen and I'm an amiable and I'm asking questions, it's going to be very different because it's going to be geared around, so how's it going? And how do you like living here? And hey, is the family okay? Are you guys adjusting all right? And how do you like the new company? And is your boss? So, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be relationship building. All right, so let me ask you this. What do analyticals and expressives share in common? Absolutely nothing. Okay? What do drivers and amiables share in common? Absolutely nothing. Okay? Where do you think the biggest points of conflict come from? Cross quadrant. So the conversation between the analytical and the expressive is the analytical saying, you need to complete the form that I sent you. I did. I sent it in. You didn't get it? It's not complete. What do you mean it's not complete? Well, you didn't answer 12, 14, 17, and 32. Well, I didn't think you needed those. If I had not needed those, I would have not put them on the form. Okay? So you get this otter sort of approach to life and this much more serious, direct sort of approach to life, and you get clash, potentially. They're always arguing over what's enough. Well, I turned that order in. Well, no, you wrote it on a sticky note and stuck it on my desk. That's not exactly turning. You didn't give me all the information that I need. And they find themselves in constant source of conflict. Drivers and amiables, oh my. If they don't get styles, this could be the source of a lot of conflict. In fact, I would tell you, one of the reasons I'm so committed to this model is because I've seen it work, and I've seen it work tremendously in my own life. I think said in the introduction, I have a PhD in psychology. That and $4 will get you a cup of coffee. Okay. No, actually, I'm very proud of that degree, and I had studied a lot of models over the years and had opportunity to be engaged with a lot of people. But it wasn't until I went to work for a particular company about 5 or 6 years ago that after going to work for this company on a contract basis, I was doing a SAP implementation. I was doing the change management portion of an SAP implementation. So I go to work for this company, and I had not been through Styles. Well, there was a particular individual on the team that was pretty high up. He was like the first, second in command of this project, big project. And he had a nickname, and the nickname was the Grizzly, okay, the bear. And there were some rules about the bear. Don't give bad news to the bear was one of the rules, okay? Don't poke the bear. Don't get the bear upset. Because if things weren't going well, he was prone to kind of get a little intense and upset and frustrated and so on and so forth. So I didn't know this at the time, but I knew it because about 4 months into the project, I took Styles, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit, how transformational it was. But if you were to show me this and I were sitting out here in class, I would have said, I've owned my own company, I've been told I'm a jerk to work for on occasion, I'm this and that, I bet I'm a driver, okay? Well, I actually, when I got my profile back, and this happens about 50% of the time, whatever you think you've pegged yourself at, 50% of the time when other people actually profile you, you come back and you're different from what you think you are. So I actually, as it turns out, am an amiable. I became convinced of that after going through the course and watching myself for the next few weeks after I went, that's silly, that's ridiculous. And then I started hearing all the please and thank yous and do you mind if, and are you mad at me? Is everything okay? Are we fine? Thought, okay, yeah, I'm an amiable. I'm not a driver. I can play a driver. So I'm on this project, and I would send an email to the bear, and it would say something like this. Hey, I was talking to some people, and we got together, and we were kind of thinking that it might be a good idea if, and we were sort of wondering and thinking that we might do this and this, but I wanted to get some input from you and see if you had any ideas, and just wanted to know if it was okay for us to maybe think about moving ahead with this. And I would get an email back from the bear very quickly, and this is what it would be. It would only be subject line, and it would say, no. Okay. And I would be devastated. I'm thinking, what did I do to upset the bear? I did everything right. I was nice. I asked about his weekend. I was super sweet in the thing. I asked, I was doing all these things right. What a jerk. I cannot believe this guy is such a jerk. Everything everybody says about him is right. You can't work with this person. It's miserable. It's terrible, and so on and so forth. In the midst of dealing with that relationship and kind of just being constantly frustrated, by the way, let me back up. Do you think the bear was laying awake at 2 o'clock in the morning worrying that maybe he had hurt my feelings somehow? No. But, what had he done? He had just been efficient and effective and got it taken care of. Okay? Not to mention the fact that I was probably irritating him with that kind of email. So I go through this course. Oh, aha moment. I go, oh, wait a minute. He's not a jerk. He's not a grizzly. He's not a bear. He's a driver. So how do I need to deal with the driver? I changed my tone completely. In fact, I started being more tell. Hey, I'm planning to do such and such so. Let me know if that's not good with you. Boom, in the subject line, right? And I started getting much, much better responses. I would go into his office, and instead of leading with, hey, how's it going? How's your weekend? I'd walk in and say, hey, I know you're busy. 3 things. Boom, boom, boom. And I would lay those out and say, yeah, that's great. Boom. I would walk out. Let me ask you this. With that shift in me, all of a sudden now speaking Mandarin to someone who speaks Mandarin, speaking driver to someone who speaks driver, do you think his respect for me went up or down? How did he see me coming to his office before? Oh, my word. Here comes that change management guy. This is going to be brutal. It's going to be a beating. He's going to ask me about... All of a sudden, we had this transformation, and I started noticing that I would go in quick, to the point. I respect his time. I talked about what he cared about and got right out, and a funny thing happened. He started calling me back. Hey, hold on. Well, so how do you think it's going? Well, and he started getting my input and my thoughts. And then he started talking about the fishing trip he'd been on or this or that. Then we went out after work because I kind of like the guy now. So we'd go out to some happy hour things, and he would start talking. And guess what? He was hilarious. He was funny. He had all these great stories about life and travels. And so I actually started structuring and putting together the teams who couldn't stand working with the bear because he was so difficult. And we would get together and we'd have these lunches, and I'd say, hey, Bear. I didn't call him that, but called him by his name. But I'd say, hey, tell him about that story about such and such. Oh, no, they don't want to hear about that. Yeah, tell him. And so he would start talking and laughing and carrying on, and then they would go, who is this? Where did he come from? What is going on here? They started seeing that other side to him. But it was amazing to me how transformational that was. That guy right now, I love spending time with. I'd be happy to see him if he showed up here. We'd go out, we'd have some drinks. He gets me, I get him. And it was purely a shift in understanding styles language. Let me give you one other scenario. So I go to a company, and I've never met the president of this company, and the person that is going to introduce me is an amiable. Okay, they're about as far left quadrant as you can get. And the boss, the president, is a driver. In fact, he comes to work at 5:30 in the morning. He's head down. He's at work. So I show up, and I've got a 4 o'clock meeting scheduled with him. So the amiable says, being a good amiable, hey, I saw his lights on, the door's open. Why don't we go by now and just introduce you and, let you say hi. So I'm like, okay. So we walk down there. We walk into his office. He goes, hey, how's it going? I just wanted to bring, this is Daren, and Daren's going to be doing some work with us. And he grudgingly kind of gets up and comes over and sort of shakes my hand. And you can see his face just, kind of getting redder and redder. And then the amiable proceeds to talk to the president driver about the weekend and the weather and, boy, can you believe how much rain we got? And I'm watching this, okay? The Matrix, I'm seeing this thing unfold, and it's not pretty. And I know that I'm going to be collateral damage because I'm standing here. So what's happening is his blood pressure, is it going up or down? It's going up. He's thinking, it's Monday morning. I'm trying to get stuff done. Are you really going to sit here and talk to me about this nonsense? So I see the situation. I reach over and take his hand, say his name, and I say, look, you know what? I know you're busy. I've got a 4 o'clock appointment with you. When I come back, I want to talk about some things with the place here and what you're trying to accomplish and see how we can accelerate that, maybe, get some of those goals rolling at an even faster pace, okay? I didn't say, hey, when I come back at 4, you know what, we'll visit more, I'll get to know you, I want to get to know you a little bit. What did I do? I spoke driver to the driver. The blood pressure starts to go down. He's like, okay, great, see you at 4. He turns around, I reach my arm, I put it around the amiable, and I say, that was so sweet. Thank you so much. That was really thoughtful of you, too. And we proceed out the room. Everybody's good. What just happened there? It's just the power of understanding the styles language and being able to notice and see what's going on around you with other people. Because otherwise those situations just implode and you end up feeling like, man, this is not working. Okay. So, identifying styles. Now that you know the matrix and the grid, is everybody familiar with this group of people? Has anybody not seen Gilligan's Island? Maybe some few in the room, but yeah. Are these different styles represented up here? Sure they are. Is Ginger different from Marianne? You have a what? What's Ginger? Life of the party. Big, expressive. And what's Marianne? A sweet little amiable. What's the professor? He's an analytical. I was thinking about if we do such and so with the coconuts and it's going to take 14 days to, right? And Thurston Howell, get me off this island. See, driver. So you can see styles in something as simple just as a TV show start to unfold. I think this is fascinating. Peanuts. Are y'all familiar with Peanuts? Okay. So what is Charlie Brown? He's an amiable. What is Lucy? A driver. How much of Peanuts cartoons are about the mean old driver beating up on the poor little amiable? What is Snoopy? Okay, here's a note. This isn't just a styles detail. If you ever see someone on top of the tree at a party, they're probably an expressive, okay? They might be expressive. And Linus, I'll tell you one of my favorite Charlie Brown Linus ones. They're laying down under the clouds and they're playing that "What do you see in the clouds" game. And so Linus says, I see the Apostle Paul in Athens, and he is standing on the mountain giving the sermon, and there are throngs gathered around. He goes into this rich detail. And then it's Charlie Brown's turn, and Charlie Brown goes, well, I was going to say a horsey and a doggy, but I changed my mind. Okay. So we'll call Linus an analytical. All right. All right. To the same exact profession, I'm just going to play a little bit of clip of both of these people, but I want you to watch from their entry, their delivery style, and see if you can pick up on what style they are.
Thanks. When I was out in the middle of the desert, a UFO landed. 3 one-inch tall guys get out. They walked over to me. I said, "Are you really 1 inch tall?" They said, "No, we're really very far away." My friend George walked his dog all at once. Walking from Boston to Fort Lauderdale and back. And he said, "Now you're done." One night George wasn't home. I went over to his house, I broke in, I went up to his dog and I put little contact lenses in his eyes that had cats on them. Dog was flipping out all over the place.
Okay, all right, you get the picture. So, delivery style, so forth. Now, compare and contrast that to this entrance.
How are you? New York City. I don't get to come to the big town very often. I like it down here.
You haven't been here in a while. Thank you very much.
I like it. Especially that Port Authority.
you go over there, do you?
It's colorful people there. That's right. Oh, I love this place.
Yeah.
Great place at Christmas.
Nice to have you here. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so the first one being who? Stephen Wright. The second one being Jim Carrey. What is Stephen Wright? Probably an analytical. Look at the way he comes out. It's very staid. He cracks a smile, but he doesn't break out in a smile. And his jokes are very cerebral. You have to think about them for a little bit. They kind of catch up with you. One of my favorite ones of his was, I bought some batteries once, but they weren't included. Anyway. Jim Carrey. What is he? He's an expressive, and he is the biggest person in the room when he walks in. And he is big as life, and a lot of facial expression, a lot of energy, and things going on. And yet they're in the same profession. So I'll just point this out real quickly, by the way. Don't assume that people are a certain style based on their profession, because you're likely to be wrong. The profiles say otherwise. So you can have an expressive accountant, okay? You can have an analytical comedian, or you know, you find the breakdown. Now, some professions like sales tends to be a little more dominant in the expressive side, but it's only like 40%. It's not 82%. So there's still that, you can't rely just based on what somebody's profession is to know what style they are. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to take not 3 people, but 1 person that you work with, and I want you to apply this to them. So flip over to page, I don't think they're numbered, but it says, where it says apply it. Flip over to that and take 1 person, put their name down. Now, what I asked you to do earlier about yourself, do with these other people. Do not guess at what style they are, because you're gonna run into some trouble doing that. What I want you to do is ask 2 questions. Think about in your mind your interactions with them. Are they ask assertive? Or they tell assertive, and then are they task first or people first, and you'll find out that they end up in one of those quadrants. So do it that way. It just takes a little bit, few extra seconds, but well worth it. Won't take a long time on this. I just want you to get your profiling practice in so you can start thinking about this. This is something that's going to take work, but you will get better and better at it, and it will pay big dividends to be able to know what the style is of the person you're dealing with. Okay, so in a little bit, we're going to talk about what changes you want to make to deal with that person. But how many of you have a little more awareness about somebody that you regularly deal with just based on what we're describing right now? Okay? All right, good. Excellent. That's what we're going for. That this starts to explain people and unpack them to you a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about some implications real quick, blow through this. Communications, obviously you communicate differently with a driver than you do an analytical. Who do you give the bullet points to? The bullet points go to the driver. What does the analytical want? Supporting data. They want to know that you've actually done your homework and you know what you're talking about. Email. How do you want to approach email to task first people? What do you want to lead with? Concise subject line, or maybe more detailed, depending on if it's an analytical or just the body of it, because you may need more detail, but you want to lead with the task, okay? If it's just in your DNA and you have to say, have a nice day, or hope you have a great week, that's great, but put it where? At the end. Put it second. Particularly with the drivers, do you want all the emoticons and faces and a little smiley and no? Okay, they hate that. So that's the way you're going to approach it. Now, how do you want to approach an email to people on the people side? What do you start with? A smiley face. Start with an emoticon. But if it's an email, you want to start with the people side. Hey, how's it going? Hope you had a great weekend. I wanted to talk to you about XYZ when you get a chance. Okay. If you lead with the task, what happens to the people? What are they thinking? Wow, what? Okay. Yes, you said that out loud. You can even text that up here later if you want. But yeah, no, they're thinking how rude. They're having trouble getting through the email because they haven't been engaged from a people side yet, and so it's not going to be as effective. Okay, enlistment, you're going to enlist them differently. I won't go into a bunch on that. Deadlines they're going to deal with differently. Recognition is going to be different. We won't unpack. We do this in the full day course. We don't have time for our purposes today. But just think about how those things would be different. I'll give you a little bit on the recognition because you all do conferences and you do some recognition. Do people on the task side like the big rah-rah, come on down here, get up here, come on, let's have a big... No way, okay? Amiables may or may not like that, but they're going to like a lot more just kind of heartfelt. But expressives for sure like the big, bring me up, and oh, that was great, that was fantastic. So you're going to approach those things differently. Let's do the deadline one just for fun. Laura, do you mind coming up here real quick? Okay. Okay, so I have something that I have a 2 o'clock deadline. Now notice what is not going to change about the situation. I have a 2 o'clock deadline. It has to be done by 2. I don't care what style I'm dealing with. But the question we want to ask is, can I just straight out of the chute ask it differently of the different styles in a way that makes it much more likely that I'm going to get buy-in early on? Okay, so Laura's a driver, let's say, and move a little this direction. So Laura's a driver, and I come to her, and I go, I got to have this by 2. Am I good? Yes. Why? Because what's Laura going to do? Hey, let me go get right on that, okay? Now, I come to Laura, and she's an amiable. And I say, I got to have this by 2. Am I okay? Why?
I'm pouting.
What's going on? What is she thinking?
He doesn't like me. He hates me.
Now, let's not wimpify us too bad, okay? But yeah, there's all that of, wow, what a jerk, man. What a jerk that I work for. I can't believe how pushy and bossy and, hey, please, thank you, would have been nice, Have a great day, right? That's all that running monologue going through the mind. So let's try this on for size. I really need I'm going to say to Laura, hey, I really need your help. I'm under a lot of pressure. Now, does that matter to an amiable? Yes, because their nature is to be sort of empathetic. I'm under a lot of pressure. I got this 2 o'clock deadline. Can you please help me? Okay? Is that going to appeal to an amiable?
Get right on it.
Absolutely. Now, I did this for actually a group of folks, and that group was unique in that 50% of them profiled driver. So I did that class fast and furious on the front end to get their attention. But when I did this, I said, now really, how much longer did that take? And one of the drivers out in the room went, I don't know, but it felt like an eternity. Okay, I can't do that. I can't talk like that. I said, okay, so we went back and we timed it, and guess what? It was the difference between I need this by 2, which took about a second and a half, and the other way, which took about 10 seconds. Let me ask you this. Is it worth those 8 extra seconds to get buy-in immediately from Laura instead of 25 minutes of her not even focused on the task, just going, oh, God, I'm going to get it done, but I do not like you, you know? Is it worth that? Of course it's worth it. By speaking her language, I'm going to move ahead at a much more rapid pace. What do I say to an expressive? I really need your help. I have this important, notice the use of that word, project due by 2. Please help me. I'm going to make sure my boss know that you contributed. Okay, I'm going to let him know that you helped. And if you can work heads down on this, and we'll go to happy hour afterwards to celebrate. At that point, by the way, the driver in the group said, great. So not only do I have to take longer to say it, now we got to knock off early and go to happy hour. But I'm asking the expressive to kind of heads down, do something that's not their nature. They like to work, you know, multitask, and I'm saying heads down. But I'm asking it in a way that's going to speak their language. Boy, analyticals are tough. So how do I want to appeal to them? Speak their language. Hey, you know what, Laura, you do great work, and you're really, really thorough. In fact, that's why I'm really trusting this to you. This is one of those rare times when I really need it fast. Can you please give me your best work by 2? Okay? Speaking the language. I'm letting her know that I value your thoroughness, but I just need to have it fast. Now, what if I come to her and I say, as the analytical, and I say, look, I know, you like to take your time, but can you just do it fast this time? Am I going to get buy-in? Because what is the analytical thinking? You are an idiot. Okay? You don't understand how things work. You do things fast because you do things sloppy. I do things thoroughly. So by not speaking in that manner that lets them know that, yeah, I get it, I'm losing time. Yes, thank you. Big round of applause for Laura, the expressive, Laura Miller. Okay, we won't camp out here at all, but do companies reflect a certain style? Certainly they do. So what about implications for meetings? Well, here's what I would ask you. Do you know what styles are represented when you do a meeting? Do you know who's showing up? When I got the profile scores back and I knew that half the class was driver, it made a difference in the way that I did class. I'm doing some work for a different company, and one of the particular subsets of the group pulled me aside and they said, look, we love the training, we want to keep up the training, we find some great value in it, but we don't want any of those little crappy exercises, games, you know, the fun stuff. We don't want that, okay? Can we just cut that out? I'm like, absolutely, I got it. We profiled them. Guess what? That entire group came back. They're all analyticals, and there was one driver thrown in the mix. And so, do you approach them differently? Is what they're going to call a great class or a great meeting going to be different from folks that are down on the expressive, kind of amiable side? Absolutely. Okay, so you got to think about that when you're getting into meeting planning. Who's my audience? How do I appeal to them? You're typically, obviously, not dealing with one group. So can I mix it up so that there's a little something for everybody? Are you appealing to all the styles? I think it would be even cool if you could kind of code meetings, not necessarily knowing that language, but when you're coding workshops, that there would be sort of fun factor little icons that are represented, or this is really task and down to, you know, work, or this one's going to be a lot of data and this is going to be a lot of digging in. This one's going to be a little more playful, a little more exercise oriented. If there's a way that you could code that so that you can appeal to those people. By the way, anybody shop Amazon? Use Amazon, right? So what does Amazon do? Amazon knows what you've liked based on your prior buying history. So they go, okay, Daren likes, you know, U2, the Counting Crows, and Barry Manilow. No, I just threw that one in. But they'll pick stuff then. They'll make a suggestion. In fact, I went on the Border site a while back, and my sister's book pops up. And I'm like, how cool is that? I call her up. I'm like, Deb, it's fantastic. Sabrina Jeffers, you're the lead on Borders right now. She goes, Daren, really? You've obviously bought a book of mine before off of Borders, and so now it's showing up that, oh, you might like it. I'm thinking, crap. They're showing Borders. They're showing me as a romance, as a steamy historical romance reader. I bought it because she's my sister. But here's the new big trend that you're going to see develop and what they're going to do. They're actually going to sell to you based on this kind of information. It's not just what you like, but the way they're going to go about selling to you. So if you're a driver, they're going to say, hey, discount, order it now, you get free shipping, boom, it's done and down and dirty. You know, if it's analytical, they're going to provide more information with it. If you're an expressive or maybe an amiable, they're going to say 4 of your friends bought this. If I'm a driver and analytical, I don't care how many of my friends bought it, okay? I may not even have any friends. It's not true. I can't believe I'm joining in the hatred from y'all earlier with all those stereotypes. Because you know what? Those are stereotypes, aren't they? I mean, at the end of the day, people are people, and we're going, they're cold. No, they're an analytical. Do you not think they have feelings and things going on inside? Yeah, they're just not showing them as vibrantly as you might, as an expressive. So at any rate, they're going to sell to you based on what your buying pattern is, and it's going to be based on this kind of stuff. You're going to see that emerge over the next few years. The point is that these styles have different expectations. You can't appeal to all of them in the same way. So you may throw on the best conference that was so much fun and high energy, it was great, and you had a great speaker, and you just thought it was fantastic, and the surveys come back, and some people said, take it or leave it. I didn't like it. It was a little too frou-frou or whatever. And you're going, oh, you can't please, you know, all the people all the time. No, you probably missed them from just a style standpoint. All right. We are going to jump ahead because we can to the cocktail portion. All right. So why styles? Basically because what I've just showed you, I think you can actually, I could show you in 15 minutes on a cocktail napkin. Some of you are going, well, why didn't you just do that in the first place? That's why I love it as a model. It's simplified language. I love all the models that are out there, but quite frankly, a lot of them, Myers-Briggs, fantastic. It's a really great tool, but if you've not been through Myers-Briggs and I tell you I'm an ENTJ, it's not going to mean anything to you. If I tell you I'm an amiable and you've never even had this course, I go, look, there are 4 styles. There's a driver, an amiable, an analytical, and an expressive. You get it. I mean, you can explain this to a 12-year-old. They would get it. They would understand it. Wide adoption. It's used all over the world. Again, whatever you think you are, if you haven't actually been profiled, you may be wrong. And ultimately, it can be used for sales, customer service, leading, all of those areas. At the end of the day, what it's about is eliminating resistance. Getting the people in your organization, at your conference, on your team, to quit rowing opposite directions of each other because they have differing agendas, and to figure out how to speak each other's language so that everybody can really row in the same direction. And I've seen it be beautiful at that. Okay, so questions. We're going to text our questions. We can do the microphone if you would like. Do individuals shift from quadrant to quadrant based on the situation? Folks who do that, we say that they have high versatility. What is versatility? We didn't talk about that, but versatility is the ability to speak other languages. If I speak Thai as fluently as I speak English, we would say that I'm very versatile in language because I can speak either one and be just fine. And then I don't go to Thailand and insist on, well, you just speak English. I speak the language. So when you're able to do that in social settings, we're going to say you have high versatility. Guess what? Doing what I do and studying this stuff and teaching it and so forth, my versatility scores come back and they're super high because I have the ability to kind of move in and out of those groups because I get the different languages. Some folks have very low versatility. If you can't speak slowly and analytically to me, I'm not going to deal with you. I can't understand you. Well, if you can't have more energy and fun, then I just have no use for you because you're just no fun to deal with, okay? So that's low versatility, when you're not able to pick up on those signs and things from other people and adjust accordingly. But yes, you can, and that's the whole point. You want to get good at it. You want to get good at shifting the language. Have you had people that don't fit in one category? No. And basically the way Styles works is when you do the full course, then other people take a profile on you. That's one of the reasons I like it. You don't profile yourself. You do that as well, but then other people tell you how they see you, and you're going to end up, even if you're right on the borderline between ask and tell, it's going to show up that way, but you're going to teeter towards one or the other. How do you deal with the task analytical when I am a task driver? How do you deal with an analytical when you're a driver? Okay, you're going to have to slow down a little bit, be willing to answer some more questions. Just because you go, oh, all you should need is the bullets. You got there somehow, so give the supporting data. Be a little more patient. Give them some lead time. Don't just rush in and say, hey, I need this. I got to have it. Got to have it now. Give them as much lead time as you can, and understand that they're going to want to process before they come up with a solution, whereas you might be a lot more comfortable jumping in. Have I written a book on my presentation? You should. Thank you very much. Great information. I actually have a couple other books I'm working on, and there's a ton of books written on styles for the workplace. Here's the book I want to write. I want to write a book on styles for relationships, because this stuff, boy, is on steroids when we start talking about dating and guy-girl stuff. And so, any others? Anybody have a microphone question? Okay. All right, so here's what I want you to do now, real quick. What have you learned? Text something that you are taking away today. What are you taking away? What have you picked up on? What have you learned? What's good for you? How to be effective. Good. Lots. Boy, what style was that? I'm kidding. How to approach my driver boss. Good. We've had 3 people register in that learned something. Come on, the rest of you, you know you're out there. Communication skills, to try to be more versatile. And you don't just have to try it. It's something you work at, and you will get better and better at it. Great reminder in the need to take note of other communication and work styles. Versatility. Learn patience with non-expressives. Absolutely. To be a better person. Totally agree. My boss and I are total opposites. Open my eyes. Additions ways to approach people based on their profile. How to better present information to my boss and my wife. Not to assume everyone reacts similarly. How to communicate with the other styles in my life. Good. Working in other people's styles. Peers' actions. How to better deal with those. Different styles. Learn that I have to have you present this to my overbearing boss who tries to fit us into all the same work. Identify styles, best communication. Great. Okay. Good stuff. Excellent. Y'all have some good takeaways. Tolerance. All right. Excellent. So, to the person who said that about the boss, let me talk real quick about just ways to collaborate. I love working with y'all here, and I would also love to work with you outside of here. You know, they have a saying in Africa, one rain only brings drought. Okay? And so sometimes you come away to a conference like this, you get exposed to some great stuff, and then 6 months later you're going, what was that? You know, I don't remember. What was that deal? And you're kind of, so maybe there's some other opportunities that we can work together, and would love to talk about that. These are just some of the things that I do. By the way, this styles class I've taught at the full day version with the profiles and everything at Southwest Airlines and for Sandia National Labs and some big and small companies. And there's my contact information. By the way, with that, with my contact info, you can email me, you can text me. I didn't put it up here, but you can also, and I would love for everybody in the room to do this because I'm an amiable expressive. You do get a first and a secondary when you take it. So I'm an amiable, but I'm also an expressive. So I have 4,000 very, very close Facebook friends, okay? The drivers and the analyticals in my life go, you're nuts. Why would you want 4,000 friends? You can't possibly know that many people. I'm like, bring the world. Let's all be together and get along on my Facebook. So add me on Facebook, add me on LinkedIn, add me on Twitter. I'll add you back, all that good stuff, all the social media as well. It'd be great to connect with you in those ways as well. All right. You get homework. So the point of that is let's look for some other ways that we can work together. Now, everybody gets homework. Are y'all okay with that? Based on what you think your style is, and this is to get you out of your box, to make you stretch a little bit, here's your homework. So for the analyticals, I want you to make a snap decision today and do something impulsive, okay? Just, you got the same drink you always order at the bar, just throw it out there. Come up with something wild that you've never had before and just blurt it out, okay? Go for it. Do something a little impulsive without thinking about it and going, oh, wait a minute, but that's got vodka in it, and so on and so forth. Okay? Got it? Analyticals? You know what you're doing? Drivers, I want you to invite 2 people to cut in line. And I want you to give 2 compliments. Okay, now, and mean it. Now, let me talk about the transformational nature of this real quick. I did this for a class. I gave this assignment. A driver, it was actually a day-and-a-half version where we get a lot more into conflict and how do you handle that. So one of the drivers came back the next day and came up to me and said, okay, I got to tell you, I came to class, I was thinking, whatever. I went through the whole deal, and he said, but I get it. I'm a believer. And I said, what happened? He said, I went home, this was my assignment to give 2 compliments. He said, my 15-year-old daughter came into the room, and I said to her, whatever her name was, Susie, he said, Susie, I just wanted to tell you that a couple weeks ago when you went to that dance, that blue dress you wore, that you looked really, really pretty. She burst into tears, grabbed her dad around the neck, sobbing, okay? This girl had been waiting for 15 years for her driver dad, who didn't think that really mattered to Hill Beans, this little expressive 15-year-old little Miss Bubbly, to say something like that to her. And it just was eye-opening. I mean, it changed this dude. So don't underestimate the power of some of this stuff in being transformational in the way you deal with relationships. If I'd had all this, I might not be divorced. Who knows? And I just came out of a while back of a relationship that went on for a while. It was the amiable dating the female driver, okay? So we can see the problems with this. Great girl, but just lots of style conflict. Okay, I'm trying to click up here. Okay, amiables. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get down into... Amiables, interrupt someone and do not apologize. Okay? Don't go, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt or whatever. You just got to blurt yourself right in there and don't just look at them like, yeah, what about it? What are you going to do about it? Disagree adamantly with someone. None of this, well, I don't know, yeah, I can see your point, but I kind of think that just, no, you're wrong, okay? Expressives. Have a conversation with no hands or facial expression. Midori, you're going to practice this one, right? Aren't you an expressive? You don't know what you are? Laura, you for sure are an expressive. And let someone else decide what to do. You don't get to give an opinion or have it. You just, okay, y'all decide. I don't care. I'll do whatever everybody else wants to do. Okay, you got it? Homework? Have some fun with it. Thank you all so much. I'll be more than willing to hang around and have answer whatever questions. So.